to vaccinate, neuter, and help the millions of family pets abandoned in Ukraine. Ukraine War Animals Relief Fund, or UWORF, is on the front line of this battle, coordinating mass neutering and rabies clinics, getting to these animals left behind, and supporting remaining Ukrainians who are desperately trying to help these animals and prevent the spread of rabies in animals and also in people. The founder of that group gave us this video when we first talked to him back in September. Now Dan Fine is back in the KIRO 7 Live studio. It is good to see you here, healthy and safe, too.
It's so awesome to learn about this mission and all the work you've been doing. Dan, you're back from another trip to Ukraine.
Yeah.
You brought us some more video, but this trip, much different.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can notice since the last time I'm here.
Yeah.
I've aged about 3 years just from being there a month. But it was a whole different experience. You know, the last time we were kind of north of Kyiv and south of Kyiv, where the Russians had invaded and gotten about 15 miles from the city. They were there for about a month or two. This time we went to Kharkiv and further south, which has just been devastated, and to these villages where, you know, they've had to live under Russian occupation for 6 months in their basement. No heat, no electricity, no water.
Oh, it's stark and depressing. And
I stayed in the house of one woman who was under occupation.
Yeah.
She's a volunteer. And she told me the story of what they went through, you know, being occupied for 6 months. And, you know, over here, I don't think we're getting the feel for what it's really like. This is like World War II for these people. They're living in shelters, 65 people in one shelter, and where they had a baby be born and a woman died, and then the Russians would show up and make the mince trip. They'd look for wounds on their, or, you know, to see if they've been shooting or any Ukrainian tattoos. And, you know, he showed me his car out in his driveway. The engine was on the second floor because so many missiles had hit and blown their door in, and just, yeah, it's really bad.
well, Dan, for people who didn't see our original story with
Yeah.
you, given this is war and you have seen the impact on people and families,
Right.
explain why it is so important for you to address what's happening with pets over there and what the situation is.
Yeah, I get lost in the minutia, but you're absolutely right. So the problem is the Russians invaded, and 12 million people fled their homes, or were killed, or under rubble. And with that left millions of pets, like your dog, out on the street trying to fend for themselves. I was just in one village where I saw a shepherd-looking dog with an open burn wound, and he'd been burned from the house or from a missile. I couldn't go get him because he was in a field and there were landmines. So, you know, you're trying to get him to come to you. But the problem is that, you know, they had a low sterilization rate, and everyone's worried about feeding and taking care of these animals right now, which we need to. But when these animals start to multiply, and we're seeing the puppies and we're seeing these kittens, and they're coming like an avalanche, we need to stop that there. And it's a little bit like COVID. The numbers are just, you know, if we don't stop it now, it's going to get much worse. And I heard you mention earlier about rabies. That's the other problem. You can't hunt. You can't go in the woods. There's Russian soldiers, and the last thing you want to do is go in with a gun and shoot wolves and foxes in their landmines. So rabies is going 10x. You combine the two problems of now you've got lots of new dogs going into the woods looking for food, getting infected with rabies, and who does that hurt the most? Children.
Right.
Because children are small, they go up to the dogs not knowing, and they get bit on the face and the neck, and unlike COVID, it's 100% fatality. 100% dead.
And when you hear pets, you think of, you know, your pet, your dog at the foot of your bed, but it affects so many facets of life over there. And people, you know, we don't see it on television every day. How are your partners doing over there? And are they, I mean, there's such just a mission of staying alive every day while trying to do this.
It's horrible because, you know, they're torturing these people. They're taking out their electricity, they're taking out their heat, and it's cold over there, really cold. And then the air raid sirens and the missiles and the drones come at night, right? And so all of a sudden, you know, you're about to go to bed and you hear the air raid sirens come on, and they're trying to sleep deprive you. So it's kind of psychological terror. And the worst part is, when they use social media, the Russians are advertising, if you post a video denouncing Ukraine, they'll send you a free heater, a Russian heater. Yeah, so they're hanging in there. And I got to tell you, so I had 6 flat tires in 1 week. Because you're hitting shrapnel, you're hitting these missile holes in the road, and I'm not a great driver. So 6 flat tires, and there's no AAA.
Yeah.
Right? So Christina, who I travel with, this Ukrainian woman, said, Dan, you don't have to worry, because I was worried because the Russians can come and you don't have a car to get out.
Sure.
And she said, you don't have to worry. In Ukraine, you'll never be stranded. 6 flat tires, we never waited more than 10 minutes before a village came out to help you, or the military, or someone would just pull over and drive an hour out of their way to get you a tire.
Oh,
And so
that's
they're
gotta
holding
touch you.
together, they're helping each other,
Yeah.
and they're resilient. And it's just, it's amazing to see how they hold together. And, I want to talk also about why they're helping these animals,
Yeah.
because they'll show up at our clinic 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, and sometimes traveling miles to get there. And I think it's because they've lost everything. They've lost their home, they've lost their job, they don't have food, their loved ones are gone, and they go on the street and they see an animal, a dog or a cat, who's worse off than them.
And they can help them.
And their love for these animals, they pick them up and they bring them to us in potato sacks and cardboard boxes, and they just want help for their animals.
Dan Fine, it is amazing work that you're doing. We have so much of it posted on Cairo7.com.
Good.
People at home want to take a look and see how they can help. Hopefully
Yeah.
you will go to Cairo7.com for this interview as well as our past stories. Thank you for being here,
Thank
Dan.
you, guys.